This is some wild news. Visions of Mana creator Ouka Studios is effectively being gutted and shut down a day after they launched the game. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. And before I even go too far in this video, just a little bit about me. I love the Mana series. I was genuinely looking forward to Visions of Mana, and one of my favorite all-time games is Secret of Mana on the Super Nintendo, giving birth to Chrono Trigger, my favorite game of all time. So I have a deep-rooted history and passion for this series. So seeing this happen to a studio behind making the latest version of it is not the best news in the world. And honestly, I feel like it points to much deeper issues going on at Square Enix. JT. Hit that subscribe, give me a like, and check out SmashJT.com for the full article talking about how NetEase Games, the parent company of Ouka Studios, has effectively gutted it and shut it down a day after the launch of what amounts to be a modern-day AAA title where a lot of people were looking forward to it, and apparently they had games in the background that they were planning on coming out in the future and working on after this game came out, but nope. Looks like at this point, all of that has been scrapped. Something truly insane happened after Visions of Mana released, a development that's unlike anything I've seen in a long time. Just one day after the game's release, the developer Ouka Studios was abruptly gutted by its parent company, NetEase Games, and is now set to be shut down. And while the situation is unbelievable to say the least, it also raises a ton of questions about the decisions being made behind the scenes. And as someone who's worked in the video game industry previously, I used to be a QA tester for Sony Online Entertainment and a game master for EverQuest Online Adventures on the PlayStation 2. I've seen some pretty bad stuff happen at studios. I've seen teams be gutted, completely cut. I've seen people let go. But typically, you kind of see the writing on the wall before it happens. It doesn't transpire like this when a big game launches and then the thanks you get for it is a swift kick out the door. According to a report from Bloomberg's Takashi Mizuki, Ouka Studios, based in Tokyo, has seen nearly all of its employees let go, with only a handful retained to oversee the final rollout of Visions of Mana. The studio's closure comes just 4 years after it was established in the first place, making the decision even that much crazier, considering the whole immediately following the launch of Visions of Mana thing. It just gives us some insight as to how troubling the situation really is inside of Square Enix. And for those of you that forgot, Square Enix is operating at quite a loss these days, a loss of 75% in annual revenue, and they are reeling right now. And honestly, looking to their old properties, Final Fantasy, Mana, maybe Chrono Trigger remake? I don't know. At this point, anything's possible. They got to pull out the big guns because their backs are against the wall and they don't have much money to just play around with anymore. Sorite on Twitter said, their problem was partnering with NetEase. They are literal cancer. And yeah, I guess I could speak to that and say the game industry is full of people trying to make as much money as possible, not caring about the actual end product. And unfortunately, in a case like this, it looks like the game looks spectacular. It looks like a great time, one that I can't wait to get to, but they don't care. They just want to make their money and get out. The news broke without any prior notice or conversation about why it happened. Visions of Mana, published by Square Enix, was a game that had garnered quite a bit of interest. Like I said, this is one of those highly anticipated titles from the JRPG community, and a game that I personally have been super pumped about. Yet, without giving even a chance to prove its merit on the market, Ouka Studios is effectively being disbanded and shut down entirely. They're not even giving this a chance to survive. They're basically killing it on the table as soon as they release it. What's going on with follow-up information or DLC or support down the road with the game? Nope, don't care, because the game's out and the team doesn't matter anymore. NetEase's response to the queries about the drastic move was vague and unhelpful as always, offering only the standard PR statement of, "We're making the necessary adjustments to reflect market conditions," when in reality, it always comes down down to follow the dollar. How much money are you making, and are you wasting it on people that you're worried are not pulling their worth? And if you're not worth what you're being paid, you're out the door before you even have a chance to say goodbye to people. NetEase's explanation is incredibly weak, especially when they haven't even had the time to assess the game's performance. While the move isn't entirely unheard of in the game industry, it is exceedingly rare, and it gives us insight as to more trouble going on behind the scenes at Square Enix. Are the pre-order numbers so bad that they just had to make a drastic decision all of a sudden? Or is there more to the story that meets the eye? Is Square Enix more screwed than people realize? That's the question that keeps coming up in all of this. I know Final Fantasy Rebirth did not hit the sales number expectations that they had. They've made a lot of financial misdirection, misguided decisions that are not paying off for them. Marvel Avengers comes to mind. Square Enix is not doing so hot these years. So if Visions of Mana can't be successful after launch, what happens next? Takashi Mochizuki on Twitter said, "New, Tencent and NetEase are rethinking their Japan investment as Japanese developers failed to produce hit games. NetEase cut many staff at Ouka Studio with a plan to shut it down, while Tencent backed off from funding commitments on several projects." This speaks volumes, not just for Visions of Mana, but the video game industry at large. If Tencent, one of the biggest video game industry power players in the world, is cutting back, what's that mean for the near-term future of gaming? The announcement of Ouka Studios' closure comes at a time when there is still so much ambiguity about the future of Visions of Mana, and as for now, the game is left in limbo, with only a skeleton crew remaining to ensure that the release gets completed properly. The studio was also reportedly working on 2 other titles, a new style battle game and a cooperative action game based on an original IP. But these days, you can't take a risk anymore. If you're already back against the wall, original IP is very risky. If you can fall back on what's worked for you in the past, unfortunately, oftentimes that's what these studios end up doing. And it looks like that's what Square Enix is going to be doing here, because those 2 games are left in limbo, but most likely being cut. I'm not going to hold my breath on them seeing the light of day, and that really sucks. Taking a quick look at the Visions of Mana Metacritic scores, there are generally favorable reviews, with the majority of them in the positive range, and then some in the mixed without any negative reviews. But for the most part, people are praising the game's charm, whimsical adventure, and graphics that are bright, colorful, and just getting lost in the world of Mana. According to IGN, and yes, I know IGN, but still, Visions of Mana finally brings the long-dormant classic RPG series into the modern age, looking great and playing even better thanks to multi-layered class and skill systems that interact in clever ways. There are definitely some pacing issues and a few questionable design choices later on, and the occasional frame drop or awkward lip-syncing can distract, but the flashy and exciting combat, deeply rewarding class system, and cast of likable characters make Vision of Mana a winning comeback for the classic series all the same, and a great game even if you haven't spent decades waiting for it. It's really hard for anyone to grasp why NetEase would gut the studio to this extent. Why keep it barely alive with a skeleton crew, especially when there are multiple games still in development? The decision does not foster a healthy work environment by any stretch, and those who remain are likely demoralized, knowing that they'll lose their jobs once the final rollout of Visions of Mana is complete. And holy crap, is that not super depressing? It's like a Walking Dead, man. You just know your job is not long for this earth, and you're just going in every day, finishing rolling out this game, and getting your resume ready because you know you don't have a job much longer. The situation surrounding Visions of Mana is a strange one, to say the least, with the studio shutting down a day after a game releases, which, like I said, is so unheard of that it's hard to even make sense of. It's hard to predict what's going to happen next. Was this a calculated financial decision by NetEase, or is there more going on behind the scenes? For now, it seems like all we can do is wait and hope for more clarity about the Visions of Mana future, and its now soon-to-be defunct developer Ouka Studios. And again, my heart goes out to all the hard work from these employees that put it out there, making a game that honestly looks fantastic, and I genuinely can't wait to get to it once I finish Black Myth Wukong. But again, it's like I only have limited amount of time to get to these games and I want to play them all, and I will be getting to this one. But that's the thing. It's like maybe the pre-order numbers weren't there because so many people are so busy playing other huge AAA games that are coming out right now and plan to get to Visions of Mana sometime down the road. This is one of those games that everyone I know that loves JRPGs was excited about it. And for whatever reason, that wasn't enough for them to keep moving forward with this studio. I'm going to leave it there. If you guys want more information, check out smashjt.com for the full article. If you appreciate what I'm doing, please consider hitting that join button. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, you stay smashing. Smash JT. Smash JT. Smash JT. Smash JT. Smash JT.